Welcome to memoQ Talks, where we talk to industry leaders about their experiences, lessons learned, and what works best across all areas of localization. Now here's your host.
Hello everybody, welcome to memoQ Talks. My name is Mark Schreiner and I'll be your host for this episode of memoQ Talks. Today we're going to be talking with the CEO of WhP, Dominique Trouche. Dominique, how are you today?
I'm fine. How about you?
Good. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If I didn't, please.
Actually, you didn't. My name is Trouche, but
Trouche.
it doesn't matter.
I'm American. I plead American.
Yeah, it's a French name. It's not. I'm not. It's not that easy for foreigners, but it doesn't matter.
Well, now I
Just call
know.
me Dominique.
Dominique, hey, it's great talking to you again. And where do we find you at this morning? Well, it's my morning. Where are you at?
I'm in mid-afternoon, so I'm in Western France right now.
Western France. How are things there? Yeah,
It's starting to be springtime and Easter vacation for many people, many midterm vacation. So it's just looking forward to summertime.
good. Yeah. I think people here are cautiously optimistic. We got through the COVID thing, and but now we have this whole thing going on with Russia and Ukraine, which is really it's kind of put a damper on things. But hopefully that'll get resolved. I happen to be in a little small cabin up in Idlewild, California, which is an interesting place. I've never been here before, but I'm on my way to Gala in San Diego. And Idlewild is this mountain range right behind LA, the San Jacinto Mountains. It's literally goes from the desert up to 7,000 feet, and it's amazing up here. If you ever get a chance, I recommend it.
Yeah,
But hey, that's
actually,
not what we're supposed to be talking about today. I am actually would like to learn more about DITA and DITA and your company. It's part of your service offering. So, can you give us a little bit of background? What exactly is DITA or DITA?
okay. So data is not a goal as such. Is actually an XML format that supports content strategy. The goal for large organization is to set up a global content strategy where they have all their content consistently, let's say, used consistently across different channels, different documentation. For You can have technical documentation, you can have chatbots, you can have marketing content, you can have videos. All this is the whole content, and their goal is to have a consistent content strategy so that they can publish this content into consistent content across many channels. And when they want to do that, they have to rely on a technical standard that can support for this content to be able to be reused and shared in different places. And that's how DITA was born. I think now it's nearly 20 years ago, not yet, but soon 20 years ago, based on XML. Which was relying on SGML, long aging standards, and it was invented by actually IBM and Nokia in 2005, and to support this goal. And then it's been growing over the years. So it was born as a let's say the adoption was mostly in North America, and maybe in Scandinavia a little bit, but mostly in North America. And it's been growing steadily since then. For let's say different. It started with IT and telecom. Very soon afterwards, medical devices, life science, and then electronic components, manufacturing and automation, and now spreading across automotive industry, finance and banking, and very recently into education as well. So very
So,
broad.
so let's take a step back. What does DITA offer, or what does it do that's different from other tagging, protocols or technologies? I mean, you mentioned XML, for example. So,
Yeah,
what is
it's
actually
it's an
different?
it's an XML standard, but it's going a little bit beyond. It's a very large standard with and some and which offers many. You can do basically whatever you want. And something which is interesting in DITA is the D
I like that.
from
Whatever I
DITA.
want. Go
DITA
ahead.
DITA stands for Darwin Information Typing Architecture, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but the D stands for Darwin, and Darwin means that it can be specialized to do exactly what you want. You can do a lot of. It's not just predefined. You had other competing standards. So DocBook was another one. In the aerospace industry and defense industry, you've got one which is called S1000D, which is very defined, very precisely defined. With DITA, it's very open. You can create your own standard. You can define. For instance, we have designed what we call a specialization, which means you can define from your DITA standard how you want things to be handled, and we've designed audio specialization, so we can create audio and videos directly from DITA, while it was not predefined in the standard. So that's why it's been very efficient. And then you had as a standard, you have a lot of technology supporting. And the more technologies you've got, the easier it is to get the standard implemented. You've got many CMS providers, many offering tools, many publishing engines, and with different format, many multi-channels, and that's a community which has been growing. And then that's how it started and booming. So we had early adopters some 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Now you've got I wouldn't say the late adopters, but I think it's the flow of small to mid-sized companies. Even some companies where you have, I think the largest companies, you've got 5,000 people. I think it might be SAP, where 5,000 people are dealing with DITA. And you
Mhm.
might have some other companies where it's only one technical writer, or not even one sometimes. So it can be for all companies. So
Well,
it
uh,
became a standard. So sorry.
clearly, there's it's an important tool, and it's been widely adopted standard. Um, let's again break it down. Let's imagine that I'm a potential customer of yours. Okay, when are you going to suggest that we start using DITA as part of our workflow?
Yeah, actually, I'm heading an LSP, so language service provider. So we localize the DITA content. So we do not we advocate for DITA, but when it comes to implementing DITA, we work we team with our content strategies that will implement DITA. So I think the value of DITA is basically when you have a corporate strategy, content strategy. That's the basic value. If you still work in silos and you have a small team designing technical documentation, you better stick with FrameMaker, or maybe if you wanna get a little bit higher, you can go to Matcapfrere for it, RoboHelp, tools like that. But it's when you want to have a corporate strategy, a corporate content strategy, when you want to involve to bridge over silos, when you want to have technical documentation, but not only chatbots as well. You want to have a web customer support. You want to have your training content. You want to have all your, and you want to be open for future, because things are moving very quickly. So you have the way to deliver the content, the way you're gonna consume the content will be evolving. So you are confident that if you go to this standard, and you are confident that you are future proof, I would say. Whatever happens in the
Okay,
future
so
in the way the
I'm
content is
thinking, you know
evolving.
what? We're creating the same content over and over in many different parts of the organization. You know what? We're reinventing the wheel. Why don't we use DITA so that we can reuse the content that we've created? Okay, so what does that look like? What tools do I need to start using DITA, and how does it work? As okay, because if I'm a content creator, I don't want a cumbersome creation process. I want something that's clean, simple. Okay, so explain to me how that would work.
You need to have a front content architecture. So you need to define exactly what type of content and how you want to structure this content. So content strategy will be derived into a content architecture where you define exactly how you want to break the content, how you want to work with content. So what we call content architecture or content information model. So what type of content, how you are going to write it. After you can, and from there you can start. So then afterwards, when you grow, obviously you have many technical writers. You might need to have a content management system if you want to have workflows. If you want to have, but many people are working with file systems, so they don't need to start with a large infrastructure. Obviously, when you start to have over 10 technical writers, you better have a CMS. But before that, you don't need CMS. And then another interest in DITA, obviously, when you do a lot of reuse, is for translation. So if you reuse a lot of content, your translation will be costing you less because you're going to translate fewer words. Obviously, on
Sure.
top of that, you don't have any DTP to do any longer. So just publish your content, and then it's published into different channels automatically without anyone checking the content. And so that's value of data. Very often you can save some 30, 40, 50% in your localization costs when you migrate to this type of structured content. So when you have
And
that's why it started with IT and telecom, IT software publishers, because they very often localize into 30 plus languages. And then the second industry was medical devices as well, because medical devices being a regulated industry, you have to translate it for the content for all languages where you want to market. And then obviously the more savings you can do, the better for your business. So that's why it was.
and then when you receive text files that have used DITA architecture, does it affect the translation workflow at all, or does it facilitate it, or is it just kind of it's
Yes,
there but it
yeah,
doesn't really get in the way?
yes, it does. If the more you go into reuse, the more you go into a specialization and things like that, the more your content gets rich. And if you want to publish multi-channel, if you want your content to be found and things like that, you're going to add metadata. You're going to enrich your content. So it won't be far away from plain text very often, and so which makes a content very difficult to localize. With two things. One is it can hinder localization. It can make localization far more complex, especially if you use variables and things like that. It can even make the content untranslatable to some extent. And so that's something. And then on the other hand, there's something as well which is different, is that when you do a translation of a plain text, you can have a subject matter expert checking your translation in plain text, but because it's easy for him. When you have very rich XML data, the SMEs will never accept to review the content in this rich XML content. So you need to have some kind of published output for the SMEs to review. So then the workflow for linguistic review makes it can become very very complex there. So that's the let's say the troubles that DITA is bringing to localization. It makes localization far more complex. And on top of that, for translators, is also challenging, because when you have a lot of tags, a lot of things, it's very difficult for translators to translate. So you need to have some special-minded translators. Not everyone likes dealing with tags. But on the other hand, since it's a standard, there are we can design some technologies and leverage technologies across projects, because there's a standard we can publish that's XML. You can do a lot of processing, and this you can design technologies that you can reuse over different projects. So that's interesting for us as a localization company, a very techno-oriented localization company, because we've been able to design some very valuable features for these processes. For instance, I told you that the subject matter experts would not review the translated content in XML. But
Right.
if you publish them, if you want them to review a published output, if you deliver to a CMS, then and they can comment on CMS, then you need to update afterwards the translation memories and things like that. So workflow can become very complex. So we have designed the tool because it's a standard. We've been able to design a tool where we can publish in the translation environment in bilingual form in online, where people can review exactly the content in bilingual format and then comment or edit the content in this. We could do that because it was a standard. Because there was a standard publishing tool called DITA Open Toolkit, which comes together with DITA as well, that helps to do a lot of things. So that's, on one hand, it's more complex to deal with DITA. On another hand, since it's a standard, you can design technologies that make it easier. So that's and then what
Yeah, I
happens
mean,
is I told you that he was making it. Yeah, sorry.
oh, I was just going to say, at memoQ,
No,
we have tools that, for example, allow in-context review, or if you're localizing content for a web page, you can actually, the translator, the linguist can view the web page, do live updates, for example, and it is, you know what I mean. We've all seen examples where the meaning of a word is so context, directed or important, that if you don't know the context, and especially if you're just translating strings, there's so many. It's so challenging to do it. So that context review is important, and I'm hearing you say the same thing, Vika.
Yeah, but with DITA, we brought it a little bit. We are relying on memoQ as well, on a few others, but mostly on memoQ, and we brought it
Only
a
on
little bit
memoQ,
further because
Dominic.
we have.
Only.
Yeah, mostly on memoQ. Let's put it
I
that
see.
way.
Okay. Good enough. Good
Uh,
enough.
but yeah, and then we have designed this feature on top because it's with DITA it's a little bit more complex than publishing an XML file or an HTML file in bilingual format. So that's what we did. But it can go beyond that. So what happened as well is that I told you that DITA was also could make the content far more difficult to translate. So what we've been since we've been working with DITA for a while with different large customers, we advise them very often. They came back to us and say, "Hey, we." Just like every customer, I think, comes and say, "Where can you save money? Where can we save money? And can we save? Can you decrease your prices because I'm under price pressure and things like that?" And we told them, "Okay, yes, if you negotiate with your LSPs, you can get a 5%, 10% decrease in cost. But if you optimize your content, you have far more at stake." Because the content we are translating is the content you have written. So the way you write a content and the way you manage your content can make it more difficult. So, and we give them some advices, and they said afterwards, they said, "Okay, just come and help us do that." So we came into the consulting business to help the customers improve the way they work, they create the content, they manage the content in order to make it more localization ready. And very often we demonstrate with customers that we can help them save some 30 to 40%, while working only on optimizing the localization process and transition memories, workflows, and things like that. You can save 5 to 10%, not more. So that's where we help
That's interesting, because I
customers.
was going to ask you a little bit about your business at WHP, and how much of it is based simply on translation of content versus consulting. Because to me, what you're saying here is, you're acting the role, you're playing the part of a true consultant, which allows you to differentiate your business model extremely, very much so from your standard LSP, which is just selling words. And for our LSP listeners, I know everybody claims to have a USP, but really what you're talking about is moving into a true consultant mode there. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. We moved into this consulting mode. Basically, we let's say consulting is not a major part. I think it's a major differentiator, but it's not a major deal. Let's say. Business wise. So in terms of business, we do 5 to 10% of our business dollar wise is in consulting, not more. But it's a major differentiator for many reasons. First, it demonstrate our expertise, and second, it opened us the doors of many large accounts which were beyond our reach before, because we've been considered as relevant. It's a small community, I would say. The DITA experts are maybe in worldwide. We are among maybe 300, 400. And when you are recognized as being one of members of this community, it opens doors very, very, very quickly to many large accounts. So we've been able to deal with customers where we have I think, 400 technical writers or something like that, with huge content flows. So that's one step. This is the differentiation because of that, thanks to this consulting. But on the other hand, as well, being consultants, dealing with customers as consultants, we identified a lot of common concerns or common issues or challenges. Let's put it that way. Common challenges, and being understanding these challenges on the content side, as well as mastering technologies, including TMSs, but beyond TMS is, let's say, transformation, all that. We've been able to design solutions that were able to allowing our customers to cope with these challenges. And that's also another differentiation. We are selling technology solutions. We're not selling software because we are a service provider. We are selling these technology solutions as part of our services. So we have beyond our services, translation services, we differentiated by going into consulting, and from consulting we went as well into designing technology solutions that are growing our localization business. So it's a virtual circle, I would say, which has proven very, very efficient. It's a very long cycle. Because becoming an expert and becoming a recognized expert as a consultant takes a lot of time. So it took us some 5 to 6 years. Maybe it would have been faster if we could have hired people, but there were no one was really. We couldn't find anyone which was knowledgeable at the same time in the data, content architecture, and in localization. And that's also one of our main values, is that we don't have so many competition there, so much competition.
Yeah.
So we are, I think that's we are unique. So sometimes it's good to be unique. Sometimes it's difficult because if you are unique, people don't trust that your value is that much. But when they try your services, they realize the value. So but the good value the good outcome at that as well is that we are quite never under price pressure. Most of our customers have been acquired by our expertise, not through RFPs. So we very rarely go through RFPs where we have to cut down prices and to differentiate. We very often start working with customers because on demonstrating our services, demonstrating our solutions, because we really help our customers in their total cost of ownership, because we help them save a lot of cost on their side as well, beyond the cost in localization, and they realize the value, and then there's quite never any questions on unit prices of words. I think
It's interesting because memoQ, we are a technology provider, and we increasingly win more business through RFPs. But the RFPs for technology typically don't come down to a price decision. It comes down to functionality. So, for example, what are your hosting options? Can you do on-prem? Can you do in the cloud, multi-tenant or private cloud? What about the geolocation features? What about security features? And then, of course, there's the whole user experience for the translators, the project managers, etc. And then at the very end, we typically will come down to price, which is a little bit different from the LSP. But before that, what I hear you say,
we are closer. Yeah, we are closer to your system because we never go through RFPs, and we go through proof of concept. So we work with
Exactly.
proof of concept with customers. We demonstrate our solutions, the way we work, and things like that. With consulting, we help them improve their content, and then I think naturally afterwards we start working and ramping up, and we take over from competition, usually saving some let's say from we usually take over from one of the big 4 or 5 in localization, and we usually, let's say, drive the cost for the customers is usually some 20-25% more.
Because of that, because of that workflow optimization and application of DITA, or even just integrating different technologies. Because I can
Yeah, and
see.
because
Go
as
ahead.
well we have everything is tuned around data, so it means that there's no exceptions. So we don't have any. Everything is optimized at every single step in the process, including translator. We teach our translators. We train them on how to use the tags and what the value of the tags. We have e-learning modules for our translators, and we have absolutely no exceptions. All the projects we deliver, 100% of the project we deliver publish correctly, while most of our competitors usually they have 90% or 95%. So it means that 5 to 10% of the projects you have to find which files have got an issue, has to be corrected, redelivered, and things like that. All that has to be factored in the price. So if you have something completely, let's say, fully automated and tuned for your content, then you save cost without cutting your margins, or you even have better margins. And,
Can you give one example of a super cool workflow that you've helped design over the last year or two that has just totally, changed the previous workflows for a company?
Okay, I can mention one of our customers in medical device.
Okay.
They had migrated to DITA. They had conditional content, a lot of conditional content, because they had the same content was used for 4 or 5 different machines. And then whenever they were translating the content to be published into different, and they were publishing 6 PDFs, and having these 6 PDFs reviewed by reviewers, by 6 different reviewers, all of them commenting the same things. And then the translator was supposed to take the feedback from 6 different reviewers on content which was obviously the comments were not consistent. And we migrated that to one single review process in the translation environment, where one single reviewer reviews only the newly translated content. He can see all conditions, he can filter on conditions, and then the content is being delivered. So we demonstrated the real value there. Another customers we helped is a very large software publishers. They were delivering their content in waterfall. So I mean, they were freezing the software, designing the documentation, translating the documentation, translating the software, translating the documentation, and then delivering all that. It took them in average 5 months between software freeze to sim ship into all languages. We
Wow.
re-engineered with them the content, the way to work in fully agile mode, to be able to localize the software, the documentation without having the software localized, and then everything synchronized eventually afterwards based on data. And now they publish into 3 weeks instead of five
Wow. That's
months.
amazing. That's
Sim
amazing.
ship.
Hey, in a previous conversation, you'd mentioned an example, and I forget what it's called, but like where you can kind of set up a formula or automate. Like if you have currencies, for example, it will automatically
Yeah.
calculate the amount. Remind me of
Yeah,
that example.
we have for measurement units. I think it's mostly there's something on we have on measurement units. For instance, you have a documentation which is written for the US market, where you might know that they're using some strange metrics like feet and and inches, and
Doesn't
while most of
everybody
the
use that?
most of while most of the rest of the world uses some things like centimeters and meters, and so
No idea.
yeah, instead of relying on the translator to translate inches into centimeters, uh, provided you have, provided your system knows that this is a measurement unit in inches, the conversion can be done automatically without relying on the translator. And so these are the type of things. You have fewer words, obviously, because this is not to be translated. And second, it's automated, so you don't have to rely on the translator to make the conversion, and then to have some reviewers afterwards checking with their calculator whether the conversion is correct. All that can be automated. So you can do plenty of things like that when you are in this world of XML. So we've designed another efficient tool, which is automatic screenshots localization. Publishing You can publish in all languages. Screenshots in all languages. So what we have designed as well is some a new solutions we've launched for video localization, tutorial localization, where we publish subtitles and audio directly from DITA. Using text-to-speech technologies, and we just embed that. So the video localization, we divided the cost by 4 or 5 for our customers of video localization, because the content gets more and more in videos, and
Yeah.
videos are very important for marketing. For we are right now recording a video, so we should know that. But it's especially for customer onboarding and things like that. It's they generate a lot of tutorials, but these tutorials are very often not localized because of the cost of localization, recording, having someone recording. With DITA, we've been able to generate something where the video is automatically localized, using directly from the text. So you translate the text and you publish your video into all languages, including audio and subtitles.
And
So there
you
are plenty
mentioned
of
a
things you can
technology
do.
that what's the technology that's used aside from DITA? You mentioned earlier. You mentioned a technology, I think, for the subtitle, the automation of the subtitle creation. And
No, we use text to speech technologies such like Microsoft, Google, Amazon. We just
yeah,
publish, just like the one from Alexa or something like that. We just use this technology. So we are experts with content, and we're experts with languages and technologies. So we assemble all that content, technologies, and languages expertise to build technology solutions that saves a lot of cost and a lot of let's say provides a lot of value for our customers. That's where
awesome. Hey,
and we are
Dominique,
and we are a lot of innovation.
yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I can clearly tell that. I have I've already taken some notes for a couple things that I'm actually presenting at Gala next week in San Diego. I'm going to be there in person. My presentation is virtual, and a part of my presentation talks about workflow automation and best practices in the life sciences or the regulated industries. And I'm going to use a couple examples that you just mentioned there. I'm going to quote you on that. Um, and but if anybody listening to this or watching this would like to learn more about DITA, obviously they can reach out and contact you via LinkedIn or through your website. Are there any other content sources that you would recommend?
Yeah, that's if you want to know, let's say, learn how to use DITA. There's a e-learning website called learningdita.com.
Okay.
And there's actually this French version of that is learningdita.fr, because we also, as member of this community, we've taken the initiative to moderate the French speaking community. So we launched an initiative, and we're translating a lot of resources into French so that people can, because in Western Europe we are a little bit lagging behind the US or North America regarding the adoptions of DITA. So we are trying to fuel the growth of DITA adoption in Europe. There are plenty of different reasons, but it's it was invented in the US, and the people in the US are more are very early adopters in technology. So in Western Europe, we are a little bit more conservatives regarding technologies.
The US is early adopters in technology, but not in measurement systems. So we're still holding out. Hey, Dominique, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to explain what DITA is for our viewers and listeners on memoQ Talks. Hope to cross paths with you soon, someday soon. We're planning some company activities in Europe this spring and next fall, but everything's, who knows, we'll see what happens. But I wish you and the WHP team the best for the remainder of 2022.
Yeah, same to you, to memoQ, and to all people which have might have listened this video.
Thank you for joining memoQ Talks, where we talked with industry leaders about their experiences and lessons learned to gain new insights about what works best across all areas of localization. Join us next time on memoQ Talks.